What's going on, everyone? This is MG the Future bringing you guys another exclusive tutorial for the Maschine Masters. Today I'll be breaking down the new Don't Smoke Rock project by Smoke DZA and Pete Rock. And before I get started, I just want to give a lot of props to Pete Rock, man. I initially wanted to do Black Superhero Car, which had a Willie Hutch sample, and I was trying to figure it out, but because I couldn't get the note right or find the right sample with that note, I didn't even bother with it. I didn't want to get out of my element with his wizardry and some kind of sorcery that he's using on that sample. But today I'll be doing Limitless featuring Harlem's own Dave East. So what's pretty cool about that particular sample is that it's pretty straight ahead. There's not a lot of micro chops going on. As you'll hear in the original sample, it's a straight sequence. But there's only one tricky thing about this one is that it's not an even 4-bar or 8-bar loop. It actually starts on an odd bar. So as they're rapping in like 5-bar intervals, which is cool if you got bars, which like I said in the last video, there's some kind of conspiracy in the music industry to bring bars back. So I was glad to hear that and hear them kind of freestyle over it. But I'm so fickle about song arrangements that when I started working on it, as you'll see, it kind of irritated me a bit. So I evened it out, so to speak. But here's the sample itself. The Trio Mocato. Let's see if we can get this name right. Neo Adianta. You can check it out on the websites to see what the sample name is and catch it. This is what I end up doing. Let me see if I can just solo the sample part. So like I said, there's multiple parts. There's a really sustained part from the intro. And as you can hear those horns, they EQ'd it or filtered in a way to where they're not as prominent in his version. That piano is lifted a little bit more with the EQ. So mine's going to loop like this. This is even 8 bars or so. But the real song loops like this. So it's just that extra chunk in the beginning that he's just letting roll. I'm not letting it roll like that, man. That was just getting to me as far as copy and pasting it and trying to make a full arrangement. You could do what you want. I mean, there's really no rules to it. Obviously, Pete Rock being the godfather and the pioneer for the sound that a lot of my favorite producers use, he's at this point where he can do whatever he wants and it'll be gold. But for me, I looped it up, made it simple. The drum pattern, the kick and snare at least, is real simple. As you can see here, he drops where my snare is. Let me get it off of mute real quick. He drops the snare a little bit and does it. Instead, he substitutes the kick for it. And I'll let you guys hear that in context. So it's the kick, the snare. He has a deep sampled acoustic snare. I got a process snare for mine. And he has these hi-hats that are going tss, 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 like he's moving around the triplets, and I'm assuming he's doing this all live on his drum machine. But I use a hi-hat loop that has the same kind of character and timbre because it's just way easier to use, and I'm always using sidechain to give it more groove and rhythm and pattern. So I won't play this all together for you guys. You notice I got the fades there, so the sample changes back and forth. And I'm using the end of the first part of the sample to transition before the snare drops come. So let me break that down. The reason why this looks like this is because the actual sample has a snare roll. So I didn't want that snare roll, nor did I hear it in his particular version. So I just faded it out using right-click show fades. This way, so everything, I did the fade so everything loops perfectly. I used the ending of this right here and just duplicated it twice. I'm gonna let it play into the original. He has a harder snare, but the tempos are the same, the chops are the same, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward, especially with a dope sample like that. The only other thing I wanted to see if I can touch on is probably going to be time stretch, because I've seen a lot of people in my last video when I was talking about time stretch, they say, hey, do a video on time stretch. So I wanted to take the opportunity to do that now. I'm probably going to use this sample as well. All right, this part's perfect. As you can see in this particular sample, if you look at my time in the grid, it's not an even loop point. It's not even 204 bars. It's kind of off. So I always try to get a perfect looping section before I do anything. So what I would do is split this, use that as my looping point, and delete the rest. And then I'd consolidate it. I keep my original sample somewhere else in the track, but the part that I'm working on, I'll consolidate, and I can look at it, and I know I'm going to need it to be an even amount. So what you do is with the warp marker, especially in Ableton Live, you can fix that just by adding a warp marker at the end. I double click the end and you see how there's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and then a 5. Well, I know the ending point is going to be 5, so I'll drag it back. And hopefully that'll do the trick for us to get it looping perfectly and evenly. And just add your metronome. And all I'm doing here is putting an even marker on each beat where the actual chords begin for the brass. Most of the times when you're chopping samples on the fly, you don't want to make everything quantized and even, especially if you're using pad or slice mode. I wouldn't recommend time stretching it and making it even because it takes the groove and the natural rhythm away. But when I use time stretch, I make sure it's even, and I'll show you why in a minute. So everything's even, so no matter what I do, no matter where I move it, the downbeats will always click. And it's matching up with the metronome. So that's a perfect loop. And what does time stretch do? So besides doing that, time stretch allows you to do a lot of other cool things as well. So for instance, if we switch this to pitch mode or repitch, we could treat this sample like a turntable. You can halftime it. We could double time it. And usually tracks like this, someone asks in the Noah 40 videos like, hey, there's this one song with Drake. It was a freestyle that came out earlier this year where the voice sounded like it was filtered, but there's something else going on. What that was double timing it or stretching the voice out, just like this. So it gives it this washed underwater feeling. In fact, you put this with the down sample technique, it is filtered. And then I think the only difference was it was reversed as well. So that's pretty dope, but that's just with turntable mode where everything's fixed off the original tempo. And if you halftime it, it halftimes it of what it is. If you double time it, it double times it of what it is. And the warp markers, the highlighter green markers keep everything timed and in place. But you could do other things too. You don't have to use repitch. You can use complex, which allows you to change the tempo on the fly. So you see it thinks the original tempo is 152, which is actually half of that. What is that, about 75 or so? Or 76? So what I would do is I would halftime it. So say that's the way it is, but you don't want it that way. Say if you wanted to have it more syncopated or more Flying Lotus type of offbeat. Well, what you can do is, what I like to do is I like to line everything up on the downbeat, and then you can take the individual hits and move them somewhere else. So let's hear how this sounds. It's just all over the place. But it's so fun to do that. And that's why Flying Lotus and all these guys use Ableton Live, because you can change the time signature of your sample with little to no effort. You can just kind of do everything on the cusp and on the fly and completely mangle samples, instead of it being very choppy or very time oriented as far as playing the phrases back as they are. You can completely change the note of the phrase. And as you've seen, as I was going through the different modes, especially in repitch mode, which I call vinyl mode, they each note has its own individual pitch when you stretch it. So it's not smooth and consistent. So that's why they created the complex and texture modes, so the pitch kind of stays the same throughout. It's not up and down like a turntable would be if you're doing that with the pitch. So that's what all that time stretch is about. So when I say I use time stretch a lot, that's what I mean. I don't use a lot of samples in my own productions in the original signature or the original pitch. I usually double time a lot of stuff because that's what the current sound of the day is. But anyway, hopefully that was pretty cool for you guys to see how that works. And of course, the remake itself, real simple. Check out that album, Don't Smoke Rock, Pete Rock, Smoke DZA. Again, I'm MG the Future for the Maschine Masters. Thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you have any recommendations or any tips you would like to see in the future, definitely let us know in the comment section. Until next time.